You want to know how you can turn your photography into dollars, filthy lucre, banzulis, all that kind of stuff. This is not a kind of how-to day course video. It is actually a look at a thing called the Famous Photographers School, which I'd never heard of. And I'm going to guess that you'd probably never heard of it too. However, today's your lucky day because that's what we are talking about. Yeah, I'd never heard of it. Somebody mentioned the Photographers School, the Famous Photographers School, in passing a couple of years ago, I think. And I said, oh, that sounds pretty cool. And I went to look for it online, and a little bit of digging around, I found this place. And it was basically, he says, having a bit of coffee, a correspondence course in the 60s with these chaps as the guiding faculty. So this is Richard Avedon, Beatty, Irvin Penn, Holzman, Eisenstadt, Stoller, Costa, Desarian, Stern, and Garfeld. Now, a couple of those you probably heard of. Yeah? Avedon, Penn, maybe Philippe Holzman, something like that. But these are big names. These are huge names in photography. And the joy, the awesome thing about that was that if you got accepted into the Famous Photographer School, not only would you find out how to turn your photography into dollars, a full-time career in photography apparently, you would also be assigned one of those chaps as a mentor. So let that sink in for a moment. If you got onto this course, you could send off your print to Richard Avedon, and an old Dick, he'd come back and he'd say, Alex, don't give up the day job. This sucks, right? How cool would that be to have, Richard Avedon or somebody else? I wonder if there was like a booby prize in there. Oh, I got the rubbish one, right? To have them look at your work, to give you feedback. That sounds to me like it would be an awesome thing. How do you get access to these chaps? Because obviously it's not like a free-for-all, right? You can't just like pay your money and then just get inundated. There needs to be some sort of a filter. And they've done this with this aptitude test. Now, of course, so this is a way of weeding out people who just they're not really invested in the whole process. They want people actually going to get involved. But at the same time, I think that this lends this whole thing as a certain cachet. Because if you want this, and this is just one folder out of 4, all the secrets to photography, because of course you can't turn to YouTube and in the 1960s and say, the 7 secrets to photography, they're only pros. No. Which are in here. I would point at this if this was a video about that. You need to kind of put in the work. So they have this aptitude test that makes you feel like you've achieved something. And we are indebted to D. Giles of 4743 Rainbow Drive, Salt Lake City, Utah. If D. Giles still lives at 4743, thanks ever so much. Anyway, so this is the aptitude test. And I thought it was quite interesting because it's going to tell us what they sort of think a photographer who says here, do you have a photographic eye, should be able to recognize in pictures if they want to be a pro in the 1960s. Now it starts off with light. It says direction of light, and there's a couple of eggs here, and they say that says front light, 45-degree side light, back light, 90-degree side light, and then you have to kind of match up the images and say what the light thing is. Okay, so that's it's fairly simple, nice and easy, pretty cool, right? And then it's more sort of visual taste judgment. And here we got some dogs. There's a bit of a fashion picture. There's a theatre crowd. There's a church or something like that, and a boat. And it's a little bit more subjective, which I think is quite interesting. And the rest of the aptitude test tends to go that way. It's a bit, like here we've got visual mood, and they've got some pictures there, and they've given us infinity, repose, glamour, warmth, and grace. And you have to kind of match the image with the mood that they've given you. And all through there, you've got cropping, subject, impact. They are open to interpretation. And I thought that's very interesting. That what they're interested in here is It's the eye. It's what's inside. Not, is this picture correctly exposed? Is it incorrectly exposed? Is it, X, Y, Z things? Have they used the wrong lens? It's all about your interpretation of the image, but how you see intuitively. Can you train what's up here? I think you can. I think you certainly can. But let's assume, right, that we've passed the aptitude test and we've been accepted into the photography school. We now have our actual proper prospectus. They're going to tell us how we can turn our photography into dollars. That's pretty cool. So we've got all that, the guiding faculty. We've got our books. We're already getting excited. We've got this. It says this is for professionals and serious amateurs. Because don't forget, this is the 1960s. Right? We have to be serious about things. Right? Okay, this is not for shits and giggles. If you want to be a professional photographer, you need to knuckle down and be serious. Probably wear a tie. When I was kind of researching all this stuff and trying to find out what exactly this famous photographer's school is, some of the people who kind of had mentioned it said, it doesn't really matter anymore because it's all film based, and the stuff in there is really old fashioned, and there's no point. Okay, but when I flick through this, I think that's missing so much. It's given it such a disservice. Yes, the pictures roll. Yes, they're all based on film and stuff like that. But the nuts and the bolts, the core ideas, where to focus, camera positions, the elements of composition, the importance of knowing your camera, all of these things, they are helpful in the extreme. It doesn't matter, I think, what level of photography that you are. Talking about it, and don't forget that these photographs they're made by these people. So there's one here, Bert Stern. It's a picture of a foot, and it's got it's lifted up. These are quite heavy, right? It says Bert Stern made striking use of selective focus in this advertising photograph for a manufacturer of women's shoes. His purpose was to show the client's product in an atmosphere of romance and glamour. See how the low angle, the close shooting distance, and the narrow zone, the zone. That's the new word, the zone. If you have the zone of sharpness, then your picture's spot on, right? So combine to focus your attention on the curved contour of the shoe. Now, I think that's a million miles away from somebody doing a video on narrow depth of field and go, yeah, check it, the bokeh on that. That's what we want. We want the bokeh. But why are we shooting narrow depth of field? Why, you can't get this information from just, from just watching YouTube videos and things like that. You need to get out there. You need to focus, photograph yourself. You need to talk to other photographers. You need to read. It sounds like a lot of you need tos, and I'm not a very big fan of you must do these things. But I think in this case, there's so much information here, so much cool stuff that with all due respect, and I include myself here, for people who I think most people, obviously there are exceptions, who kind of try to help people become better photographers. There's gaps in our knowledge. There's so many, and I think it's important to look all over the places, because the key to taking photographs in the way that you like, that resonate with you, it comes from you putting together lots of different disparate pieces of advice and finding what works for you within the gaps. And looking at, for example, Philippe Holzman talking about the process that he goes through of, making a print of Audrey Hepburn. I mean, it must suck. You've got all these ugly models you have to work through. But if I look at that, it's people saying, oh, well, that's a wet darkroom. And I don't print my work, so that doesn't really mean anything to me. It doesn't matter. And you go, but it does, because you see that Holzman has a process. He goes through it methodically to get to the end result. You have to build on certain things. It's like making food, doing cooking. If you want to make a bechamel, You can't just add the ingredients in any old fashion that you feel like. They have to go in a process. And as a digital photographer working in a digital darkroom, you might think, okay, well, it's not just a case, there's the image, what shall I work on now? I'll do a bit of that, oh, it needs a bit of that, whatever. There should be a process because these elements build on each other. I think this is a wonderful resource. And if you are looking for it, so it is called the Famous Photographer's Course or the Famous Photographer's School. Like I said, there's a couple on eBay. If you are near Yale, I believe that they have the whole archive of this. When they closed down, then they took over all the correspondence and what have you. I don't know if you got access to it or if you can go and see it, what have you. But I would be fascinated to see some of the correspondence between the guiding faculty and the students, because unfortunately, whoever had this copy didn't either send off their assignments or didn't keep their responses. Boo. I was hoping I'd open it up and be like, oh, Avid and stuff, and be like, yeah, look at that. But it was not to be. Not to be. But if you want to see more of me rambling on about Richard Avedon in my very first TPE video, which was the 20th of November, 2020, which is 4 years ago. Seems a long time ago. But yeah, if you want to see me very prim, very proper, very out of focus as well, then check out this video over here. Thank you ever so much. If you've been watching for 4 years, then even more thanks. But yeah, I will see you again soon. All right, so yeah, cheerio and cheers.